The peak of Dragon Mountain shimmered in the morning sun, a glorious spire of rock in ancient caves. But for Draco, it felt less like a home and more like a glaring spotlight on his difference. He took a deep breath, trying to mimic the others, puffing out his chest and focusing all his energy. Instead of a roaring burst of flame, a shimmering jet of water sputtered out, landing with a pathetic splash at his feet. A ripple of giggles echoed from the group of young dragons practicing their fire-breathing nearby. "Look at Draco! Still watering the flowers?" sneered Ryla, her scales a brilliant crimson. "Maybe you should go live with the fish, Draco, if you prefer water so much." Draco's wings drooped. He tried again, willing fire to ignite within him, to prove them wrong. Nothing. Just more water, colder and clearer than the mountain stream. Shame burned hotter than any flame could have. Being able to breathe fire wasn't just something dragons did. It was what they were. It was how they warmed their caves, forged tools, and most importantly earned respect. A dragon without fire was less than a dragon. "Leave him alone, Ryla," a smaller voice piped up. It was Cinder, a shy dragon with scales the color of smoldering embers. But even her defense felt weak, quickly drowned out by the other dragon's laughter. Draco turned and fled, his wings carrying him away from the taunts, away from the expectation, away from everything he knew. He flew until Dragon Peak was a distant silhouette against the horizon. He needed to escape the constant reminders of his failure. He landed heavily in a small clearing, tears welling in his eyes. "Why me?" he whispered, looking at his claws. "Why can't I just be normal?" A warm weight settled on his shoulder. It was his mother, Lyra, her scales a calming sapphire blue. "Draco dear, what's wrong?" she asked softly. They laughed at me again, mother," he mumbled, burying his face in her scales. "I can't breathe fire. I'll never be a proper dragon." Lyra nuzzled him gently. "Oh, my sweet boy. Don't listen to them. You are perfect just the way you are." "But it's not enough, mother. Fire is everything here. It shows strength, skill. Everything. I'm nothing without it." Draco looked up, his eyes pleading. Lyra sighed, a wisp of smoke escaping her nostrils. "I know, dear. Dragon Peak has its traditions. But your father and I, we love you for you. Your water breath, it's unique. It's special." "Special doesn't keep you warm in winter," Draco retorted, his voice laced with bitterness. "Special doesn't earn you respect." He knew his mother meant well, but her words felt hollow against the weight of the other dragon's scorn. The societal expectations were a strong current, and even his mother's love couldn't seem to push against it. That night, under the pale glow of the moon, Draco made a decision. He couldn't stay. He couldn't bear the constant disappointment, the relentless teasing. He would leave Dragon Peak and find a place where being different wasn't a weakness, but something else. He didn't know where he would go, but anywhere felt better than here. He packed a small pouch with dried berries and a smooth, gray stone his mother had given him, then spread his wings and soared into the darkness, leaving Dragon Peak behind. Draco flew for what felt like hours, the gray stone warm in his pouch. Exhaustion tugged at his wings, and finally, he spotted a break in the dense mountain range. A valley cloaked in mist, unlike anything he'd ever seen. Drawn by an inexplicable pull, he descended, the air growing noticeably cooler and damp. As he entered the valley, the mist swirled around him, revealing a forest teeming with life. But it wasn't the Kindorf life he knew. Trees glowed with soft, internal light, flowers bloomed in colors he couldn't name, and the air hummed with an unseen energy. It was magical. He landed clumsily near a giant oak, its roots thick and gnarled. Immediately, a flurry of chattering erupted from above. A squirrel larger and fluffier than any he'd seen before scampered down a branch, its tiny paws clutching an acorn. Well, what have we here?" the squirrel chirped, tilting its head. "A dragon. And a wet one at that." Draco flinched. I don't mean to intrude," he stammered, expecting the familiar sting of mockery. "Intrude? Humph," the squirrel replied, surprisingly not unkindly. "We don't get many dragons around these parts, especially not drippy ones." He paused, flicking his bushy tail. "I'm Pip, by the way." Before Draco could respond, a soft glow emanated from the base of a nearby mushroom. The mushroom itself pulsed with light, and a gentle voice floated on the air. "Pip, be polite. He looks lost and rather sad." "He is a drippy dragon, Lumi," Pip grumbled, but he didn't press the matter. I am lost," Draco admitted, lowering his head. "And sad. My name is Draco." Suddenly, a tiny figure, no bigger than his claw, zipped past his face, leaving a trail of sparkling dust. It hovered before him, its wings beating rapidly. A dragon! Oh my! Are you going to scorch everything? The sprite's voice was barely a whisper. No, Draco quickly assured her. I can't scorch anything. I breathe water. He braced himself for laughter, but it didn't come. Lumi, the glowing mushroom, pulsed brighter. Water? How fascinating. Pip cautiously approached Draco, sniffing the air. Smells clean. And fresh. Not like smoke, thankfully. The sprite, whose name Draco learned was Willow, slowly gained confidence. Water is good. It helps the flowers grow. As Draco spent more time with the creatures of the Whispering Woods, he began to relax. He learned that the forest thrived on moisture, and water wasn't seen as a weakness, but as the source of all life. He discovered a small pond nearly dried up, where a patch of luminous moss was struggling to survive. Old Man Tiber, the moss hasn't been himself lately, Pip explained, his voice unusually somber. He needs water, but the spring has run dry. Draco hesitated, then took a deep breath. He focused, remembering the cool rush of water within him, and exhaled. A powerful jet of water shot from his nostrils, filling the pond with cool, clear water. Old Man Tiber visibly perked up, his glow intensifying. Wonderful! Oh, wonderful! He boomed, his voice surprisingly strong. Thank you, young dragon. You've saved me. Willow and Pip cheered, and Draco felt a warmth spread through his chest. A warmth that had nothing to do with fire. Later that evening, perched on a branch overlooking the glowing forest, Draco met Hoot, a magnificent owl with eyes that held centuries of wisdom. You are troubled, young one, Hoot observed, his voice a low rumble. I don't fit in, Draco confessed. On Dragon Peak, I'm an outcast because I breathe water. But here, they accept me, but I still feel different. Hoot blinked slowly. The forest understands balance, Draco. The sun needs the rain, the fire needs the earth. Every gift, every creature has a purpose. Your ability to breathe water is not a flaw, but a unique strength. It is a gift that can nurture, heal, and sustain life where fire cannot. He paused, his gaze piercing. Do not try to be something you are not. Embrace what makes you you. The days that followed were filled with a joyful experimentation. Hoot's words echoed in Draco's mind. Embrace what makes you you. He started small, practicing controlling the flow of water, aiming for precision rather than power. Lumi, the glowing mushroom, suggested visualizing shapes, imagining the water bending to his will. Pip, always the energetic one, would set challenges. All right, Drippy, Pip chirped one morning. Think you can make a water bubble big enough for me to ride in? Draco chuckled, a sound that surprised even himself. He hadn't realized how much he'd missed laughing. He took a deep breath, focused on the image of a shimmering sphere, and exhaled. A bubble formed, wobbling at first, then growing steadily larger. Pip, squealing with delight, leaped onto it, bouncing gently. Woohoo! Amazing! Pip shouted, circling above Draco's head. Now try a waterfall. A tiny one, of course, we don't want to flood the place. Willow, flitting around Draco, added, perhaps a water flower? Something delicate and beautiful? And so began a playful competition. Draco created swirling water spirals, miniature fountains, and even a shimmering replica of Dragon Peak, complete with tiny water clouds. He discovered he could vary the pressure, creating delicate mists or powerful jets that could carve patterns into the soft earth. He learned to weave the water with air, creating fleeting sculptures that caught the light and dissolved into a sparkling spray. You're a natural, Draco, Lumi exclaimed, her glow pulsing with excitement. You don't just breathe water, you shape it. You're an artist. As Draco honed his skills, he began to understand the forest in a new light. He noticed how the water flowed through the roots of the trees, nourishing them. He watched how the dew collected on the leaves, providing drink for the insects. He saw how the streams carved paths through the land, connecting different parts of the ecosystem. Hoot explained, everything is connected, Draco. The water you provide isn't just about quenching thirst. It's about maintaining the balance. It's about allowing life to flourish. The forest needs your gift, just as much as it needs the sun and the soil. One afternoon, while practicing near Old Man Tiber, Draco noticed the moss wasn't as vibrant as it had been. What's wrong? He asked the ancient moss. The water is good, young dragon, but the soil is lacking nutrients. It needs a gentle washing, a swirling to bring the goodness back to the surface. Old Man Tiber rumbled. Draco, remembering Hoot's lessons, carefully directed a swirling current of water around the moss, loosening the soil and releasing a rich, earthy scent. Within moments, Old Man Tiber began to glow with renewed vigor. Ah, that's the stuff. You see, young one? You didn't just provide water, you understood how to use it to heal. That is a true gift. Looking at his paws, then at the flourishing forest around him, Draco finally understood. He wasn't a flawed dragon, a disappointment to his kin. He was Draco, the water breather, and he had a purpose. A smile stretched across his snout, a genuine, joyful smile. He was different, yes, but different wasn't bad. Different was special. The joy Draco found in the Whispering Woods was a balm to his soul, but it couldn't completely erase the memories of Dragon Peak. He often found himself gazing towards the distant, jagged peaks, a knot of worry tightening in his chest. One afternoon, that worry blossomed into full-blown alarm. Pip, the squirrel, darted onto Draco's shoulder, chattering frantically. Draco! Draco! Terrible news. Old Man Tiber just heard. A wildfire. A big one heading straight for Dragon Peak. Draco's heart plummeted. A wildfire. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. He immediately turned to Hoot, who was perched on a branch, his golden eyes grave. It's true, Draco, Hoot confirmed, his voice somber. A rogue lightning strike ignited the dry brush in the foothills. The winds are pushing it towards the peak. The other dragons are fighting it, but... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Fire is their strength, but even fire can be overwhelmed. Lumi, her glow dimmed with concern, added, Old Man Tiber says the flames are unlike anything he's ever sensed. They're hungry. They're spreading too fast. A wave of guilt washed over Draco. His home, his family, in danger, and he was here, safe in the forest, mastering an ability they had scorned. He remembered the teasing, the disappointed looks, the feeling of being an outsider. Could he face them? Would they even want his help? But they'll laugh, Draco mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. They'll say I'm useless. They'll tell me to stay away. Hoot ruffled Draco's scales with a wing. Draco, listen to me. There's an old legend passed down through generations of owls. It speaks of a dragon long ago, who saved Dragon Peak not with fire, but with a gift just as powerful, the ability to command the mists. This dragon used the moisture in the air to create a protective shroud, shielding the peak from a terrible storm. Some dragons dismissed it as a myth, but the legend persists. Willow flitted in front of Draco's face. That dragon was different, just like you, and they saved everyone. Pip, ever the pragmatist, chimed in. Whether it's a legend or not, Dragon Peak needs help now. And you, Draco, you have something they don't. Draco hesitated, his gaze fixed on the distant smoke that was beginning to stain the sky. He pictured his mother, his fellow young dragons, all in danger. He thought of the forest, the creatures who had accepted him, believed in him. They had shown him the true value of his gift. I don't know, he stammered. Hoot landed gently on Draco's snout. Fear is a natural thing, Draco. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. Your gift isn't just about creating beautiful water sculptures. It's about life, about balance, about protecting what you love. Dragon Peak is your home. Go, Draco. Be the dragon you are meant to be. Taking a deep breath, Draco made his decision. He would return to Dragon Peak. He would face their judgment, their disbelief. But he would also offer them his help, his unique ability, and a chance to see him not as a disappointment, but as a savior. He spread his wings, the determination hardening his gaze. I'm going home, he announced, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. And I'm going to do everything I can to save it. As he soared towards Dragon Peak, he could see the frantic activity below. Dragons were circling the blaze, unleashing torrents of fire in an attempt to create fire breaks. But the flames were relentless, leaping over their defenses. He could see the desperation in their movements, the frustration etched on their faces. They were powerful, yes, but they were fighting fire with fire, and it wasn't enough. The air grew thick with smoke and the heat blasted Draco's scales as he approached Dragon Peak. Below, the scene was even more chaotic than he'd imagined. Dragons, their faces grim with exertion, were battling the inferno, but the fire seemed to mock their efforts, twisting and turning, consuming everything in its path. He circled higher, assessing the situation, a plan forming in his mind. He couldn't just blast the fire with water. It would be like trying to empty the ocean with a teacup. He needed precision, control, and to work with the wind, not against it. Taking a deep breath, Draco descended, aiming for a point just above the main blaze. A hush fell over the battling dragons as they saw him, Draco, the one who breathed water. He heard murmurs of disbelief, even scorn. But he ignored them, focusing on the task at hand. He unleashed a concentrated jet of water, not a wide spray, but a focused beam, aiming for the base of the largest flames. The water didn't extinguish the fire immediately, but it did something unexpected. It created a dense cloud of steam, cutting off the fire's oxygen supply. Then, with the rhythmic precision he'd honed in the Whispering Woods, he began to weave a watery shield, directing powerful streams to encircle the fire, creating a barrier that starved the flames. The other dragons watched, stunned into silence. They'd never seen anything like it. Their fire blasts were powerful, but they only pushed the flames back temporarily. Draco's water was containing it, suffocating it, slowly but surely choking the life out of the blaze. "Incredible!" breathed the young dragon, barely louder than a whisper. "He's controlling it," another marveled. Draco worked tirelessly, guided by the wind currents, the steam working to his advantage, cooling the air and creating a localized rain. He moved with a grace and power he hadn't known he possessed, his water breath sculpting the very air around the fire. The smoke began to thin, the heat began to subside, and slowly, painstakingly, the flames began to dwindle. Then silence. The fire was out. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled dragons. They stared at Draco, their exhaustion replaced with awe. He landed gently, his wings drooping with fatigue, and looked up to see his mother pushing through the crowd. Her eyes, usually clouded with worry, were shining with pride. "Draco," she said, her voice choked with emotion. You saved us all." He rushed to her, burying his snout in her scales. "I just did what I could, Mother." Suddenly, a chorus of cheers erupted. The young dragons, the ones who had once teased him, were now chanting his name. "Draco! Draco! Draco!" Older dragons approached, offering nods of respect, their faces etched with gratitude. Old Master Ignis, the most respected dragon on the peak, approached Draco. He dipped his head in acknowledgement. "You have shown us, young Draco, that strength comes in many forms. We were foolish to judge you for being different. You are a true hero." From that day forward, Draco was no longer the dragon who couldn't flame. He was Draco, the savior of Dragon Peak. He continued to live on Dragon Peak, but he never forgot the Whispering Woods and the friends who had helped him discover his true potential. He often flew between the two worlds, sharing his knowledge and helping to bridge the gap between them. He even started teaching the young dragons a new lesson, that being different wasn't a weakness, but a strength. He showed them how to appreciate the unique gifts of others, and how to work together to overcome any challenge. And sometimes he'd take them to the Whispering Woods, to show them the beauty and importance of the world beyond Dragon Peak. A world where water, just like fire, had its place, and where every creature, no matter how different, deserved to be celebrated.